So, I've been using the iPhone 16 Pro for a while now, and recently I've got my hands on the iPhone 16e, which is Apple's most affordable iPhone from the new lineup. Now, obviously, the 16e is not meant to compete with the iPhone 16 Pro because it's almost half the price. But after switching between them, I noticed some really interesting differences. Some expected, but some surprising. And since a lot of people are also looking at the iPhone 16, I'll also discuss how the 16e measures up to it. So, here's what stood out to me while using the iPhone 16e after the 16 Pro. The most obvious difference I initially noticed was the big notch. It reminded me of the iPhone 14, which was launched about 2.5 years ago. On the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, you get the dynamic island which expands, contracts and shows useful information. It's missing from the 16e. Besides this, the biggest difference was the refresh rate. The 16 Pro has a 6.3-inch 120Hz ProMotion display, making everything feel buttery smooth. Whether it's scrolling, gaming, or just navigating the UI. The iPhone 16e, on the other hand, has a 6.1-inch display which is logged at 60Hz. If you have never used a high refresh rate display before, you probably won't care. But coming from the 16 Pro, I immediately felt like everything was slightly sluggish, not laggy, but just not as fluid. The iPhone 16, well, it has the same display as the iPhone 16e, and it's also stuck at 60Hz. So the experience would be similar to the 16e. In terms of brightness, both the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro can go from 1 nit all the way up to 2000 nits outdoors, whereas the 16e has a max brightness of 1200 nits, and it cannot go as low as 1 nit. Another thing I noticed instantly is how the 16e feels different in hand. The 16 Pro has a titanium frame which makes it lighter yet premium, while the 16e sticks to the aluminum and glass. The iPhone 16 also has an aluminum frame, but its glass is color infused. It's not just the cosmetics. The iPhone 16e has an older generation ceramic shield protection, whereas all the other iPhones from the 16 series have the latest gen ceramic shield protection. It doesn't feel cheap at all, but you can still notice the difference when holding both side by side. Also, the Pro's matte glass back feels smoother, whereas the 16e's glossy back picks up fingerprints more easily. The customizable action button is also present on both the devices, so that's a plus. However, the 16e misses out on the camera control button, which is present on all the other models of the 16 lineup. Speaking of camera control, let's talk about the cameras, which is another most obvious difference between these devices. The iPhone 16 Pro has 3 lenses, a 48MP main fusion camera, a 48MP ultra-wide camera, and a 12MP 5x telephoto camera. Now, on the 16e, you just get a single 48MP fusion camera. That's it. It means no ultra-wide photos, no clear zoom shots, no cinematic videos, no advanced camera functions, compromise in portraits, and average low-light performance. There's one thing I noticed while testing the 16e's cameras. It has a portrait mode that works okayish. I mean, don't get me wrong, it takes some really good portraits of people, specifically people. But if you want to take a portrait shot of an object, then it doesn't detect it. So therefore, it doesn't apply the blur. However, if you just point and shoot, it's still a good camera because Apple's software processing is solid. But I did miss having the extra versatility of multiple lenses and camera modes, and you will too if you're a photoholic. The iPhone 16 has a dual camera setup, including an ultra-wide lens. So, if you need a versatile camera but don't need the Pro features, it's a nice middle ground. I've done a detailed camera comparison of the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. Tap on the I button to check it out. Honestly, if you're gonna buy the iPhone 16e, then you're probably the kind of user who doesn't get attracted with bells and whistles like the dynamic island, ProMotion, camera control button, and even multiple cameras. You'd want a device which doesn't compromise with the core performance and doesn't charge you extra in the name of new features that otherwise you'd never even look for in a smartphone. The 16e is that device for you. It comes with the latest A18 chip with a 16-core neural engine. The A18 on the 16e has a 4-core GPU, whereas the same chip on the iPhone 16 has a 5-core GPU. And on the 16 Pro, you obviously get the Pro chip with a 6-core GPU. But how much difference would you experience in day-to-day performance? The simple answer is that in casual usage, the 16e performs just as good as the iPhone 16 or even 16 Pro. Even when I played casual games on it, the iPhone 16e performed well. It didn't overheat and there were no lags or FPS drops. For more insights about 16e's gaming performance, check out this video. It even comes with Apple Intelligence, so you won't be missing out on any AI features. However, they are shitty as compared to Samsung's. In my usage, the 16e was performing so well that I didn't even notice any difference in performance. So I did a boot up test. Funnily enough, the 16e booted up first. I did the test multiple times, but every time the 16e was the first to turn on. And I know you cannot really measure actual performance from just the boot up test, but since it happened, I shared it. Bottom line is, if you use your device for basic things like social media, phone calls, texts, or studying, then from the pricing perspective, you're better off with the iPhone 16e. However, if you're an extensive smartphone user and you use the camera a lot and also edit your videos on your phone, then you're better off with the iPhone 16 or 16 Pro. Now, here's something unexpected. The iPhone 16e actually has better battery life than the iPhone 16 or 16 Pro. On the product page, Apple mentions that the 16 Pro will last longer as compared with the iPhone 16e. However, in my usage, they both were neck to neck in terms of battery life. Since the iPhone 16e has only a 60Hz display and one camera, it drains way less power. In casual usage, I noticed it lasted longer than my 16 Pro, especially when just browsing or watching videos. The increased battery life is also due to the new C1 modem in the iPhone 16e, which is Apple's first in-house modem. The new network modem contributes a lot to the battery efficiency, as it consumes about 25% less battery. The 16 Pro still lasts a full day, but with ProMotion 120Hz refresh rate and extra camera features, it does drain faster. The iPhone 16e also lasts about a full day with moderate usage, and it consumes less battery when sitting idle. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some small things that I took for granted on the 16 Pro and I immediately missed them on the 16e. For starters, there is no MagSafe on the 16e. So the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, they both can wirelessly charge at up to 25 watt with a MagSafe charging. But since it's missing on the 16e, it wirelessly charges at up to 7.5 watts. And forget all the MagSafe accessories. Second thing I instantly missed was the lack of always-on display. I mostly place my phone screen up on the desk, and it's nice that I don't have to touch it to check the time or the notifications. And it's not like it's a hardware feature that they had to remove for cost cutting. Most probably, Apple did it to further create a distinction within its 16 lineup. Lastly, the slow USB-C. While both the iPhone 16 and 16e are limited to USB 2.0 speeds, the 16 Pro supports USB 3 for 20 times faster data transfer. Probably not a big deal for most people, but if you transfer files a lot, then it does matter. After using both, here's my takeaway. If you have never used a Pro iPhone before, the iPhone 16e won't feel like a downgrade. It's still a fast and reliable iPhone with the same A18 chip as the iPhone 16 and longer battery life. But if you're used to ProMotion, MagSafe, multiple cameras and a premium build, you will notice the difference. If you want the full iPhone experience with the best display, cameras and build, the iPhone 16 Pro is worth it. But if you want a solid budget-friendly iPhone that covers all the basics, then the 16e makes a lot of sense. And if you're considering the iPhone 16, it's basically a blend of both. It has dynamic island, a dual camera setup and MagSafe, but still lacks ProMotion and a premium build. I know that some of you are gonna say I did not consider their prices and the iPhone 16e is way overpriced. Well, my answer is that the iPhone has always been overpriced. There's also a massive price gap between the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. Pro users pay a lot of extra money for a few extra features. So considering that too, in my opinion, the iPhone 16e can be a value buy for many. Let me know in the comments which one would you choose and subscribe to Gizmo Rush for more content like this. I'll catch you in the next one.